Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Talyn and this is Dietitian with a Mission. Today our featured ingredient are pears. It's fall and there are so many fruits in season and pear is just one of the many. Today we're going to be making two recipes that feature two different types of pear. We've got the Bartlett pear and we've got the Bosc pear. Now the way that you check to see if a pear is ripe is you gently press on the top, the neck. They've got the slogan, check the neck for pears, and if you feel the give, that means our pear is ready. I feel like it goes from not ripe to ripe in like a day. So just really be aware when you're making pears, when you're eating pears, that you are assessing them for peak ripeness. That way you'll have the best results. My Bosc pear got a little damaged on its transport home. So I cut off that piece and I didn't need to use it until today. So I kept it in the refrigerator so that it would slow down the ripening process. Pears are one of many fruits that give off gases as they ripen. So if you're putting them with other fruits or if other fruits that give off gases are being placed with pears, it's gonna expedite that ripening process. Furthermore, keeping your fruit at room temperature will usually expedite the ripening process. When we put peak ripe fruits in the refrigerator, that drop in temperature slows down that ripening process and it can keep your food fresh and prevent a ripe pear from turning into a rotten pear. So that's what I did with the Bosc pear. To keep it from browning, I did a little bit of lemon juice on the cut part of the pear. Let's get into our two recipes. Our first recipe is a smoked Gouda and pear sandwich. We are going to be using a Bartlett pear, smoked Gouda cheese of your choice, deli meat. If you've got smoked deli meat, then even better, it's gonna give it a more robust flavor. We'll need a little butter or earth balance spread to put on your bread so that it gets nice and toasted. You can use honestly whatever bread you want. I think a rosemary bread would be really nice, but I found a nice hearty multi-grain bread in the deli. And then I'm gonna be making a infused mayo, I guess. I found some unique spread here, sour cherry spread. So I'm gonna put a little bit of that with our mayo to make an aioli. I think this would be really good if you have leftover cranberry sauce from Thanksgiving and leftover, homemade roasted turkey in the oven from Thanksgiving. And then you can recreate this sandwich using your Thanksgiving Day leftovers. And finally, it wouldn't be a Talyn-based meal if we didn't have a lot of greenery. So we're gonna be adding some fresh greens to the sandwich. I think using arugula would be great if you've got that around, but this is a spring mix. So it's a little bit of mixed baby kale, baby spinach, baby arugula. So first step is to turn on our skillet. Ideally, you'd have a panini press, and this could be a whole panini. But I don't have a panini press, so this is basically just gonna be a grilled cheese, which is one and the same, right? Let's prep our ingredients. When you're cutting bread, you wanna use a bread knife. What's a bread knife? It's a knife that has serrated edges. When we use a knife with a flat side, it's a lot harder to get into the bread, and we're gonna be more likely to squish the bread versus cutting through the bread. So our flat edge knives, those are saved for cutting fruits and vegetables, where our jagged edge we use for meats and bread. All right. Okay, for thickness, I'm doing it about the thickness of my finger. If you can get a thinner slice, fabulous, because then everything inside the sandwich will get nice and toasty. If your bread's too thick, you risk your cheese not melting. So we've got enough to make two sandwiches. I'm just gonna save the butt for another meal. Just gonna butter each side like we do with any old grilled cheese type sandwich. I've had people ask if you can use olive oil. You sure can. Just make sure your pan isn't too hot. Otherwise, you'll hit the smoke point and you'll have a really smoky kitchen. And if you've got infused butter, I think that'd be fabulous. Like we did rosemary butter or something. Rosemary always goes with pear and turkey in my opinion. Set this aside. Okay, so I cut off 2 chunks of my smoked Gouda cheese. I was aiming for 1.5 ounces, and when I did put them on the food scale, they came out to about 1.4 ounces, so pretty close. So I'd say that's a good amount of cheese for our sandwich. You can of course use less or more, depending on your taste and nutritional needs. Yes, the rind is okay. This is not particularly hard, so it's not gonna make it tough to chew on. Some cheeses like Parmesan have a really hard rind, so that makes it challenging. Okay, and then as the skillet is warming up, we're just preparing these ingredients. So we've got our cheese here. The turkey is already sliced, I don't need to do anything there. Really, it's just making our aioli and slicing up the pear. So I am actually gonna put the toast in the pan non-butter side down. Why am I doing the non-butter side down first? Well, I want the bread to get warm, because when we put our cheese on top of it, if the bread that it's sitting on is warm, it's gonna expedite the melting process. So that is why I am doing it that way. Sounds like some of the butter is getting through. You can hear a bit of the sizzle. Sounds so nice. Let's go ahead and slice up our Bartlett pear. I feel a little bit of firmness here, which is fine. If it's really, really firm, if it feels like an apple, then it's not ready. Unfortunately, it's not going to ripen quick enough. Once it's cut, it'll just kind of oxidize. It won't necessarily get sweeter. Thin slices will work best for this, I think. And then I'm avoiding the middle core of the pear too. Thick slices will fall off the sandwich really easily. You can definitely use a Bosc pear. There's no right or wrong pear. They all vary in sweetness. So Bartlett is one of the sweeter pears. And I think this sweetness is gonna work really nicely with the smoky saltiness of the cheese and of the turkey. If you are a vegetarian, go ahead and just use the cheese. Do not use the turkey. And if you're a vegan, click on another recipe of mine. Okay, yeah, so that's getting warm. I think by the time I'm done with my mayo, we should be good to flip the bread over. So the mayo is gonna be really easy. We just have about a tablespoon or so of mayonnaise. If I can open this up. Oh, there we go. All right, and then we just add a plop of our jam in, or jelly or preserve, and give it a nice stir. And now you have aioli. Now, I don't think I'll need to add any salt here because our meat and our cheese are plenty salty. If you wanted some spice, you could add some chili flakes. I think we've got enough flavor going on here though, let's see. Oh, that's good. I'm actually surprised. I thought I was gonna taste more of the sour cherry spread. I didn't taste as much as I thought. I taste mostly the mayonnaise. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. What makes food really, really flavorful is when you have a variety of flavor profiles. So we've got smoky salty from the cheese and from the meat. We've got sweet and crisp from our pear. And then our mayo is gonna give us that buttery texture, buttery flavor, but also a bit of tang. And so once you bite into that, you are just bursting with flavor. If we had arugula for the greens, that would give us some peppery accents to it. But this is just regular spinach, so it's just gonna add color. Okay, oh, we're good. It's all nice and browning. So I'll go ahead and I'll put our aioli on one side. And our cheese on the other. And who knows, this might be too much cheese. We'll find out. Oh, it smells amazing. There we go. Aioli on our other side of bread. Is you can take your turkey slices and put it on the same pan so that it gets nice and hot as well. That will help with the melting of the cheese. And then I'm gonna layer some pears on the aioli side. Why don't you come here and take a closer look? So I got my meat all nice and hot and toasted. You can see the cheese is starting to melt here. By putting my hot deli meat on top of the cheese, it's gonna melt that a bit more. Woo. Here we go. So good, and it smells already so incredible. I'm gonna layer a couple of leaves here. My other piece of meat. Other piece of meat here. Nice and hot. And then we're just gonna put it together. Let's see how this transfer goes. There we go. We got some cheese sticking to the top. Love it. All right, let's see how this transfer goes. There we go. Nice. Let's plate these bad boys up. Well, this is what we have. A beautiful toasted smoked Gouda and pear sandwich. It was super easy to make. And I've got my delightful husband here to be our taste tester. Still might be a bit warm. I think that means it's good. Thank you all so much for watching this quick and easy lunch recipe. Let's get into our second recipe, which is gonna be our blue baked Bosch pear. All right, recipe number 2, some baked blue Bosc pears. I also have Bartlett pears because I just had leftovers, so I'm gonna do a couple Bartlett, a couple Bosc. I also have them cut different ways, so because these had gotten injured and I cut that injured side off, I've got 2 halves. I guess they're more like 3/4, and the core is still intact, so I'm gonna need to take my paring knife and gut out the core. With the Bartlett pear, I just cut alongside where the core would be. So now I just have the 2 halves, and we'll just kind of nibble on the middle part as a snack, but then I don't have to do any coring. But I do need to cut out some flesh in the middle because we are going to stuff these bad boys. They're gonna be stuffed with blue cheese and honey goodness. So I have a paring knife, and carefully, ever so carefully, I'm spooning out the inside to make room for our filling. And this guy is just a little bit less ripe, so it's on the tougher side, but that's okay. Whereas my Bosc pears are definitely on the riper side. So this is gonna look, it's so easy. I mean, honestly, I could take this out with like a spoon, probably. And I'm just gonna cut that core out. With a little bit of seed that I still have in here. There we go. So very carefully remove that. I've got my oven heated to 400 degrees, and we're gonna bake these pears first with just a little spritz of olive oil and some salt. Or I should say drizzle. If you've got one of those olive oil misters, you can just use that, but I do not. I'm not that fancy quite yet. I do have a little basting brush. So, brush this guy. Gonna put the extra olive oil on this one. Baste that. My other pear. And my other pear. The oven's ready, 400 degrees. A little bit of salt, little bit of salt. So salt actually brings out the sweetness in foods. It draws out the sugar, draws out some of the water. So that is why we're salting this. Don't be afraid to add a little bit of salt to things that don't have much salt. I've got a cast iron skillet here. I'm just gonna plop these guys actually face side down, cut side down. It's gonna help caramelize the pears. All right, in the oven you go. We're gonna let that cook for about 10 minutes. We'll check on them, and depending on how many pears you're doing this with or how big your pears are, you might need a little bit more time to get them a little bit softer, juicier, golden. Our filling is really basic. It is your choice of stinky cheese. You can use blue cheese, gorgonzola cheese, Gruyere cheese, any of those yummy stinky cheeses you like. If you want to go a different route, you can use a mild soft cheese like a goat cheese or perhaps a feta cheese. But I think there's something delightful about having a stinky cheese with this sweet, juicy pear. So consider giving that a try first. Here we've got our blue cheese crumbles, and I'm going to add a little bit of crunch that will last by crumbling up our walnuts. The walnuts won't get, really soft in this mix like the cheese will. And since it's gonna be mixed with everything, it also shouldn't burn. So, I don't know, I think I did 5 walnuts or so. So yeah, just mix that up. And then I'm gonna add some thyme. If you've got fresh thyme from the sprig, use that. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of red chili flake. I think having some spice will be nice. If you are anti-spice, skip that step. And then just a little bit of honey. And you can finish it off with some honey at the end as well. So here's our mix. And then once our pears are ready, we'll go ahead and we will spoon this goodness right inside. Okay. Wow. You can see that the skin's brown. So these are gonna be hot and delicate, so definitely be careful. Don't turn off your oven yet because, ooh, that got nice and caramelized. I wonder why this one didn't. Because we're gonna, oh, it's so fragile. We're gonna put these guys back in the oven. Ooh, that works. I probably could have created a deeper crevasse in the Bartlett pears, but we are already here. So let's just spoon our blue cheese filling straight into the crevice of our pears. And then we're gonna pop it back in the oven